It's that first cut that you make into human skin when suddenly you peel back the skin and you think, how's this going to take me a year? And you peel it back and you see what's underneath and you think, a year's not long enough.
Sure.
What was that first experience of entering the dissection room like? And are the tales of people throwing up and that kind of thing that you hear about sort of true?
So we had no preparation. So it was very much drop you in and off you go. Here's your dissecting kit. Here's your book. Off you go. And there were 4 of us to a body, 2 on each side. But when you walked in, there were about 50 tables spread out evenly along the room, and each one was covered by a white sheet. And so you could see the mound underneath the white sheet, and you think, oh, okay, there's a lot of bodies under there. And then you take the white cover off, and you're faced, because I was only 18. You're faced with the first time you've ever seen a dead body. And you think, no, that's okay. That doesn't really look real because of the embalming process. So there's a bit of a detachment. And then you have to try and get the scalpel blade onto the scalpel handle, and your hand's shaking a wee bit. And it's that first cut that you make into human skin when suddenly you peel back the skin and you think, how's this going to take me a year? And you peel it back and you see what's underneath and you think, a year's not long enough.
Sure.
And by that point, you've crossed a Rubicon. You're no longer afraid to be there. You're totally immersed in why you're there. And I found that for me as if I'd come home. I knew I'd come home. I belonged in a dissecting room, which is ultimately where I'll end up.
Wow. And just before we carry on with your story, those bodies are all given to science. Is that right? I don't know, I was just struck then that when you spoke about this room of 50 bodies, 50 people who had given their bodies over to that.
Yes.
That's such a, self-give, literally it's a self-giving thing, but such a generous act to just say, let's let 18-year-olds learn their craft on me, on my body. But
it's really sobering. So when you're faced with this body, and every student gives their body a name. They don't know the name of the person, but mine was Henry. It was always Henry, because that was Henry Gray, Gray's Anatomy, the real Gray's Anatomy, the book, not the television series. And so he was Henry. But you knew the moment you walked in there, he had consented that his body could be used for these purposes.
Yeah, wow.
And he had therefore given us a gift that nobody else could ever give us, ever. Because the only thing he asked, he was not paid for this, the only thing he was asked was that we learn. And for me, that was just the most sobering thing, and it's never, ever left me. And I've always said to all of my students, nobody will ever give you a gift like that again. Don't ever abuse it. Don't ever take it for granted. It is the most selfless thing that somebody can do, to say, I no longer want these remains, I no longer inhabit them. I give them to you, and all I ask you to do is learn. And in Dundee, we used to call them our silent teachers. And the rationale was that they would teach our students more than we ever could. So they were very, very welcome members of staff. Tessa Dunlop, who does broadcasting, her father bequeathed his body to my department. A lovely, just lovely man. And his family just weren't sure. They really weren't sure. Tessa was always supportive of it, but many of the other families thought, was that the right thing to do? At the end of the time when we're finished with the bodies, we have a service, and there is always a coffin present in the chapel representing all the bodies. And the students come in, it's not mandatory, but the students come in and they line the walls of the chaplaincy. And the respect that they show, and then they give a little bit of a talk about what it means for them to have learnt from their silent teachers. What the family came back to me afterwards and said, he was right, that was the right thing to do. So they were won over by the commitment of the students. So sometimes families don't think it's the right thing, but they will follow the wishes of the deceased, but have doubt. But sometimes by the end of it, they're totally converted as well. But I have signed my bequeathal forms so that when I die, my body goes back to my department in Dundee, because I want to be embalmed the way that they particularly embalm. And I've made a request that my body is not dissected by the medical students or the dental students, but by the science students, because they really dissect thoroughly. The medics and the dentists don't have time. Their curriculum is just so full that their dissection is often quite superficial. They come back to anatomy when they're surgeons and they need to learn, the detail. But the science students, I want every little bit of me dissected, as you can possibly imagine.
Do you want
whoever works on you to know it's you? Or
no, they can't, because that's not proper. That's absolutely not proper. Okay. And so then what I would then want them to do is gather together, and let's face it, there's enough of it, the fat and the muscle and the skin and everything else, and just cremate that, because that's just soft tissue. There will be nothing left, because the ash comes from bones. It doesn't come from the soft tissue. And what I'd quite like them to do, but this is what I think they will probably balk at, I'd quite like them to take all my bones. They need to be boiled down, because you need to get all the fat out of the inside, because it's not pleasant.
I know what's coming, I think.
And I want to be a skeleton for the rest of my death.
I knew it. Like one of the hanging skeletons.
So I can carry on teaching for the entirety of my death. Now, my daughters think that's a fantastic idea, because a bit like Day of the Dead, they said, well, Mum, we don't just go to a graveside to mourn you. We could come in and see you. We could visit you. And isn't that healthy? I kind of think so.
Well,
can you imagine? Like you say, they'll never know because it's not proper.
No.
But the chances are that if someone is doing forensic science, they know very well who you are. Can you imagine them finding out that the skeleton before them, or the person they're working on, is the legendary Sue
That'd be
Black?
fantastic.
That would
So
be
I will
wonderful.
produce a sheet for them. Fill in the blanks. How old was she when she died? And I will fill in an anonymous sheet that says, this bone was broken, this has happened, that has happened.
Right.
So that there's a full sort of list of identifiers that they could see if they can find within the bones. But like, where's Wally?